For most people, pain means stop. Yet in sports, pain feels almost normal, sometimes even positive. Have you ever wondered why athletes willingly endure pain or even seek it out? Hi everyone, welcome to my show. I'm your host, Ivy. In today's episode, we'll explore how pain becomes a positive part of being an athlete through the voices of athletes themselves and what does it mean sociologically. I'll be drawing on three key theories: Foucault's discipline body, Coakley's sports ethic, and Merleau-Ponty's embodied subjectivity. I know, that probably sounds like a bunch of complicated academic words you'd rather not Google right now. And I used to feel exactly the same way before I applied to my own sporting career. And then I realized they actually help explain something that I wondered and confused me all the time, like why athletes push through pain. And you might even wonder, why do we need to know that at all? What can we do with all those theories? Well, for people who play sports, you probably know pain and performance are never separate. And if you ask them how they feel about pain, I guess most will say it's really normal or it's just part of the deal. But here is the thing. Sometimes the things matters the most when they seem not matter at all. Just like how we have come to see pain in sports as something completely normal. And those three theories I mentioned, they are the key to unlocking why that happens, how the process of normalizing pain gets built into an athlete's body and mindset. So stick with me because we're going to use these theories to unpack the stories of two athletes that I interviewed beforehand, and we'll find out how pain becomes not just a part of sport, but a part of who they are. Our first athlete, Connor, shared how pain becomes a way to measure effort and evaluate performance. Then we'll hear from Apollo, who reflects on pain as a form of self-sensing and emotional discovery. And joining me today is my special guest, Jay.
Hello, everyone.
Yes, so Jay will help me to read these stories and discuss with me together about how athletes live with pain, what does it mean to them, and how pain ultimately shapes who they are. To start off, let's figure out what pain actually is. So Jay, how would you describe pain?
I would say that based on my personal experience during run, it's like struggling with myself in mind and muscle soreness from my legs.
I feel exactly the same when I run. But here's the definition. According to the International Association for the Study of Pain, pain is an unpleasant sensory and emotional experience associated with or resembling that associated with actual or potential tissue damage. Now, I don't know about you, Jay, but what really catches my attention here are the words unpleasant and emotional. I guess because I never thought about pain can be emotional. And also, I often feel strangely drawn to that emotional struggling, like the mental struggling when you push through yourself at the end of the running. And I almost feel I enjoy that and addicted to it. And maybe that's where things get really interesting. So when pain in sports stops being just physical and becomes something emotional and even meaningful to shape who we are. So Jay, I just wonder, when you play sports like running, you talk about, how do you feel about pain?
If I encounter a sudden pain during a run, I will probably stop right there and check my body condition immediately to decide whether should I continue or not.
Yeah, exactly. So I guess it's really important to check whether it's the pain or injury. And that's what makes each one's stories really fascinating. So let's hear from our first athlete, Connor, a competitive 100-meter sprinter who talk about pain as part of every training day.
Yes, Connor said, depending on the type of training sessions, if I do a speed endurance session or long training session, this is a lactic acid pain. I feel it in my stomach, chest, everywhere, and I just want to throw up. but I still have to run another one. That's the mental training. And also the soreness from the gym session when I'm pushing through and that muscle soreness. And I guess that's a positive feeling because I know that my muscles are being exercised and getting stronger.
Yes, exactly. So I guess when Connor talk about he feel the pain is positive because he think his muscle is being exercised and getting stronger. So for Connor, pain isn't something to avoid. It's a sign of effort.
Right. And he also separate good pain like muscle soreness or dumps and bad pain like injury, which he tried to avoid it because it would stop him from training.
Exactly. And this drawn to our first sociological theories. That's what they call sports ethic from J. Coakley that he developed in the early 2000s. So the sports ethic is the set of cultural values and moral beliefs that define what it means to be a real athlete. And here we have this following four norms that athletes can conform, underconform, or overconform. Basically means whether athletes they identify and accept. So number one, dictation to the game above all. Number two, striving for distinction. Number three, accepting risk and playing through pain. And the last one, accept no obstacles in the pursuit of success. Let me sort of explain one by one. So the first one, dedication to the game above all, basically means success is seen as a reflection of total devotion. Athletes are expected to prioritize sport over almost everything, such as family time, personal, resting time, and even health. And striving for distinction, I think this is really obvious for if you are doing sport or you are athletes, you definitely want to become better, higher, stronger, that those that we sort of identify to be what it means to be athletes. And that means being average is never enough. Athletes are expected to constantly pursue excellence. And it's not just about participation, it's about distinction. So proving yourself you're different from other people. And this related to our next one, accepting risk and playing through pain, which is what we all know that's no pain, no gain, right? So pain in here is normalized as part of sports culture. Athletes prove toughness by continuing despite they are experiencing injuries and pain. Because for them, refusing to play through pain is often seen as weakness. And the last one, accept no obstacles in the pursuit of success. Basically, that means whenever you come across those setbacks, like injuries, failure, fatigue, or external life pressures, you cannot stop. Because you want better performance. And they internalize the belief that quitting is equal to weakness. And this creates a relentless and sometimes can be healthy driven if you push yourself too much and then may lead to injuries. We can clearly see this when Connor talks about consistency and what he believes makes a real athlete.
Yes, he said, I really enjoy I can run faster. Like every time when I have my personal best. And if I just feel muscle soreness, I feel like I can still do the training session as long as I just do the good warm up. Because I find it's more important to stay consistent. I improve more when I'm staying consistent.
So here, Connor are talking about whenever he's facing those pain or muscle soreness, he's still training because he wants to maintain consistent. And it's because he strive for improvement, right? So Connor accept pain as a necessary part of his consistent training. And this is the moral evidence that qualifies his identity and what it means to be a real athlete.
Also, he even said, for real athletes, it's about competing. If you're not competing, I think you're just exercising. I guess higher than you are competing and then training and more as this let's say you are. So for pain, I guess it means you are doing it seriously. Because if you are an athlete, you are competing with a goal and probably means you have to put incision and it's going to be painful.
such a powerful quote that I think exactly the same because I also do sprints myself. So I always thought about if you are just training, I think that's not enough because I want better performance and improvement. And Connor's words just show how deeply the sports ethic shapes his sense of self and identity. So pain becomes not just physical, but also gives moral meaning. Because for Connor, pain is not only about the physical feeling, it's a symbol of seriousness, identity, and he finds this sort of belonging in sports. And now, if we turn to look at our second theories, Foucault's idea of the discipline body, we can also see how this works in a deeper level sociologically and how this process happens. So Foucault described the discipline body as a body that has learned to obey, to move efficiently, follow rules, and perform under control. What does it mean? So in the context of sports, athletes like Connor train their body very young under the watch of coach and timers and all those daily routines. So through discipline, repetition, and supervision from the external environments in the sporting institutions, their body learn to obey the rules of sports. And this is not only physically, but also mentally. So pain in here is also belong to parts of this learning process of all those rules because you have to endure pain in daily training and then the teammates around you and coach will tell you how you should feel and how they coaches you. So it's a signal of control and productivity. It's a way to measure and managing your training loads and also a proof of mental toughness. So in this case, pain is not something dangerous. It may be even something that they pursue or enjoy it. And eventually, athletes internalize this external idea of discipline and they choose to discipline themselves. This is what we hear about the self discipline comes from. And this process eventually will shape the athlete's self identity, becomes a part of themselves. They choose to monitor their own behavior, push through pain on their own, even eventually, there's no other people to tell them what to do. So, for Connor, pain isn't just some experience happened to him. It's a part of his identity that he learned to use pain as a tool to achieve higher success.
I feel the same. Appropriate pain provides positive emotional value, while severe injuries can cause athletes significant frustration and discouragement. So, guys, please don't train blindly. Join a group, and finding the right coach would be an excellent choice.
Yeah, I totally agree with Jay. It's really important if you don't know so much about the sports and your own body, so you would better to find someone that can help me. And it's really important that you don't get injuries because they're really frustrated and you probably don't want to do the sports anymore. And now let's move on to our second athlete, Apollo, a powerlifter and has his second competition coming up. So Apollo, I wish you all the best and you definitely will nail it. Unlike Connor, Apollo's story brings us into a different aspect of pain, not just about training discipline, but also related to emotion and self-sensing.
Yes, Apollo said, I train for mental health benefits. I notice when I don't go to the gym as consistently, I get really anxious. I also notice the longer you're in the gym, or the longer you're doing exercise, you almost become a little bit addicted to that muscle soreness. I think that's a positive pain. And sometimes it's so intense, it's all in my head that I can't think all the other sessions in my life.
So Apollo in here are talking about the pain can be so intense that he cannot think about the other things in his life. So this tell us that pain can be both hurt and healing. So this is the sort of the emotional core of pain in sports. For Apollo, pain isn't just a signal of damage, it's also a form of mental clarity and even a way to, I guess, releasing the pressures. So I guess if you are doing sports or maybe you are just training or exercising, I guess you always will feel a strong sense of satisfaction when you challenge yourself. and when you push through beyond your limits. So Apollo used pain more actively because he sort of noticed that and he used that as a tool to help him balance his life. So this helps to explain why pain can sometimes feel rewarding and even athletes want to seek it out.
He also said something really interesting about control and awareness. I've had some really intense injuries before, and I didn't feel like I had control all over my body. So, one key point when I'm chasing that positive pain is ensuring that I have control all of my body. Bracing up my body, keeping my shoulders tight. It can minimize the possible injuries. And I think it's helped me learn my limits. Like I need to tap out when I feel uncomfortable. But also know that to reach your goal, you have to push through that pain. It's something you can't really run from it. So having coach that you can trust is important.
Yes, so just like what we discussed, Apollo's view of pain and control connects with Foucault's the disciplined body. So, like Connor, Apollo's sense of self control is partly shaped by external discipline through coaching, repetition, and structured routines. And he learned to transfer their body into an efficient, obedient instruments. He's sort of describing that he wants to master pain in order to control himself. So in here, unlike Connor, Apollo's discipline also comes from an inner desire to better sense and feel himself. And this is where Maurice Merleau-Ponty's theories, embodied subjectivity, comes in. So what I mean is our subjectivity, including self, thoughts, identity, and emotions, is not separate from our body, which means what we experience becomes who we are. In sports, athletes experience themselves through bodily movements, fatigue, and pain. So their identity comes from those bodily sensations, and the pain is a part of that because every day that you are doing the sports, you are feeling those mental struggling, those are construct who you are. So, back to Apollo says, pain helps him learn his limits. He's describing pain sensation as a process of self-discovering through the body. Each time he pushes through pain, his identity as an athlete is reinforced. And also, when athletes push their bodies into the limits, they encounter themselves most honestly. Because, as Apollo said, he cannot think about other things in his life. So through pain, they discover their own boundaries, fears, and resilience. And sociologically, this also connects back to what we talk about the sports ethic. Because think about it, if you are athletes, you definitely know that the society prizes endurance and the toughness. Pain is a part of what defines toughness and prizes the endurance. So this shapes the athletic identity. Therefore, for both Connor and Apollo, enduring pain is not just a personal growth, but also a sense of belonging that confirming their identity as a real athlete.
Apollo also reflected on how pain gives him a sense of difference. If pain disappears from my training, I think it will make it harder to engage in a sport. Because that's what makes the sport enjoyable for me personally. Pain is a barrier for lots of people. Not everyone can be bothered. But at the same time, there's a lot of benefit that sports can bring to us. I guess for me, it's proof that I'm different from other people.
Exactly. I have to be honest that I feel exactly the same way when I doing the sports. And one of the ways that motivate me to keep doing is I think if I can endure that and I'm better than other people, right?
For sure, for sure.
So here, Apollo's word perfectly captured how sports and pain is intertwined. Although we all know that it's really painful, it's indeed painful and negative feeling, but it's also so much meaningful for athletes. So pain becomes a marker of difference, identity, and pride. That's why it markers so much meanings that we don't maybe realize in our daily training. So it's not just a side effects of sports. It's part of what makes being an athlete meaningful. So listen to Connor and Apollo, we can see how pain in sports, far more than a physical sensation. It's something athletes live with, negotiate with, and even cherish. So Jay, after hearing all of this, right now, how do you feel about pain?
I think after I read this story and hear about your talk about those series, I feel like I understand a lot of things that I really thought about it before,
Yeah.
seriously. I also feel like the series helps me to understand my feelings about pain. And although I agree it's true about these two athletes, see physical pain as a positive payoff, I still think it could be dangerous if you push yourself too much, because that's probably will lead to more serious injuries.
Yeah, I agree with you. So one of the things that we want to add on here is although pain that we saying here, we talk about today, it can be positive, the athlete want to pursue, but it can also be really dangerous. And then if you are aligned with those, whatever the sports ethic, or you sort of think the pain that can help you to prove yourself, but also need to remember that the pain and injuries, so far, there's not a really clear definition to differentiate what is pain and what is injury. So we don't know when the pain that you feel that can lead to negative effects, which is the injuries. And I also want to add on from here. So both Connor and Apollo mentioned that it's much easier to endure pain when training with others, the teammates, coaches, or training partners, because the reaction and support from those around them play a really crucial role in shaping how they understand pain and whether they come to accept or even enjoy it. At the same time, each person experiences pain differently. So I want to mention in here is different people experience pain differently, and this is shaped not only by individual's ability, but also by the environment around you, the social expectation that you are living in, and also those cultural values that you carried when you are trained. At the end of the show, I hope that through today's discussion and with the help of these three sociological theories, we can begin to understand why pain is not the opposite of joy in sports, but rather how it becomes an integral part of being an athlete and what truly gives sports its meaning. And hopefully, the next time you experience pain, whether in sports or in life, you'll remember what we talked about today and see pain a little bit differently. And finally, a huge thank you to Connor and Apollo for sharing their valuable stories with us, and I wish them all the best in their future training and competition. And of course, thank you so much to our special guest Jay for joining me in today's conversation.
For sure. Alright, see you guys around.
So thank you for listening. I'll see you next time.